What's going on, YouTube? Thanks for tuning back into another video. Here in the garage working on the K-Series build. Got a couple goodies for it. We're going to be showing you how to actually cut, modify, and install the RBC manifold onto a K20, in this case, A2, specifically engine. Now, typically this RBC manifold doesn't come on this engine, but it's the best OEM upgrade you can do. People have dynoed just a stock RBC from an RBB, I think is the OEM one, manifold swap, and they pick up about 15 horsepower just with the manifold and throttle body instantly. It's super easy. So we're going to be installing this one, but first it needs to get modified. Before anything, I did want to give a huge shout out over to Family Tune. I'm wearing some of their merch right now. They were kind enough to send over this RBC manifold so we could actually use it on the build, and I really do appreciate the support. They not only sent the RBC, but also some other supporting mods that we are going to be putting on the K-Series build, so I'll also go over that later in the video after we actually mod this RBC. That being said, the reason that we actually do have to modify this RBC is on the K-Series that this comes off of, the water neck is included on the manifold. You can see this area right here is that included water neck portion. And even though this is an OEM manifold, it still needs to be modded to go onto these engines. So essentially it's gonna be super easy. We're going to follow the gasket line that I'll show you in just a second. It's gonna go right over here, and this whole section will be cut off. Why are we doing this? You can do it cut off and run an aftermarket swivel water neck, or you can also run the OEM water neck. Now, a lot of people opt out to not use the OEM one just because it has all these extra like ports, and you have to use a fixed position radiator in a certain spot, and the hose placement isn't ideal. I'm not decided on what I'm gonna do for that yet. I might do the aftermarket water neck. I might just try to make the OEM one work. We'll see. But this is off of the manifold. It's not attached to it. And like I said, this one is. So what we're gonna have to do is go ahead and cut that excess piece. I have a little intake manifold gasket that I picked up at AutoZone. This is like 10 bucks. And you could do the thermal ones, and I more than likely will do a thermal gasket on this one, but for the sake of just getting this traced out and cut out for 10 bucks, it's a really nice traceable method. So really simple how to use. Intake manifold gasket goes on the intake manifold, obviously. You have the ports line up. Holes, everything lines up. You do want to make sure on this is to trace it, it's going to be a little bit tough if you don't have this actually glued on. So, simple solution for that, we're going to get a couple of nuts and bolts and literally just hand tighten it with a nut and bolt on. Okay, it's pretty even right over there. You can see everything lines up nice and easy. And some people get scared when cutting this because it does come super close to the port, but that is exactly how the manifold calls for, and you just want to make sure you have it traced out nice and easy right there. Little Sharpie, and as simple as tracing it where we need to cut it. Now, this line does not have to be exact. Although the Sharpie line is right here, you can cut it out to like right over here, and it'll still clear, but you can kind of play with it, go back and forth. I have the cylinder head right here, so we can always test fit it, but you want to get as close to this line as possible. That way you can actually cut that off. And for the first couple cuts, we're gonna just go along this line. Afterwards, we're gonna shape the outside of the manifold, because there's this big hump right here. All that's gonna get knocked down, but little by little. And at the end of this, we'll have an RBC manifold, in this case, K20a2. Putting it onto this Type S K-swamped Integra. You can see right there, we're all traced out, ready to go. And in our case, we are going to be using angle grinder with a cutting wheel. I also have a bandsaw. There might be some sections that will be easier with a bandsaw, and if we end up doing it like that, we can. It shouldn't be a problem, but most people have this at home, so I'll probably just stick to this and let you guys kind of follow with something that's easy to use at home. Before that, I want to show you the other stuff that we got in the box though. So obviously you saw the RBC manifold. We have a hybrid racing fuel pressure gauge. So this is just a regular mechanical gauge that can either go on your fuel system or on your fuel rail, depending how you have it set up. So that's going to be really good. This right here is an Acuity, I think that's how you pronounce it, Acuity maybe, I don't know. TPS calibration harness. It's going to make calibrating the new TPS, which is an Acuity Hall Effect TPS conversion upgrade, however you want to call it. And the reason people run these versus the stock ones are prone to damage with the vibration, especially when using racing mounts on these K-swap cars. And these are nice and heavy duty, so we're not going to have any issue with this as if we were going to use an OEM TPS sensor for that. So it's going to be really cool to be able to upgrade to that. And right here, the hybrid racing fuel rail. So this one's really cool because you can actually run a return off of the rail if you want. Some people do it in line. Some people do it like B series, that's inlet one side, outlet the other side. Or you could even do like inlet on the bottom, inlet on one side, inlet on the other side. There's so many different ways that you can do it. And it does come with the ports, plugs, and fittings. This is to a -6, if I'm not mistaken. And then these are just plugs. It comes with 2 plugs, O-ring or B fittings. So you can plug up the sides that you don't want to use for inlet, or you can keep one of them open or 2 of them open. There's a whole bunch of different ways that you can do it. So it's a really cool fuel rail that we have right there. Huge shout out to Family Tune. This is gonna come out super handy. And yeah, can't wait to get started on this cutting. Without further ado, let me clear up the workbench a little bit. I have my engine right there, the bottom end that we assembled in the last video. Everything's still nice and super smooth. This isn't getting touched until we actually get the gasket kit. Then we can put on the cylinder head, which actually, while we're here, I did not mention this in the last video, but we have it fully assembled. We got some new valves for my boy here in Orlando. And we're able to assemble it because we had a couple bent ones on the last setup. And I did a fresh valve lap. Everything's nice and sealed in there. Fresh valve seals as well. Same springs and retainers, cleaned the bump a little bit, same keepers. They were still in pretty good condition. But the cylinder head itself is a lot cleaner. Had a whole bunch of carbon buildup and whatnot. Now it's nice and clean. A little rust on the side of it, but it's on aluminum. It's not really gonna spread. A little bit right here, but it's okay. But we're looking pretty good. The exhaust ports were really banged up when we originally got them, but they are looking pretty clean, you can see. So I'm stoked on that end. So yeah, cylinder head is gonna get on as soon as we get the gasket and seal kit in the mail. And right now we can start cutting on this. All right, so I got my safety glasses. Got my cutter right here, grinder, whatever you wanna call it. Have my engine over there fully covered up. Everything's gonna be nice and clean. Yeah, let's kind of go for it. When using a cutter like this, you can't really do angles or curves. So we're gonna do rough cuts, essentially like this, maybe like that. Kind of do a little bit of angle, but you can't really do much. So don't worry about that. You'll get the final shaping afterwards with like a flap disc. But yeah, without further ado, is it not plugged in? There we go. Lot of metal. We got almost through the flange right there, pretty close. Now this section is going to be kind of hard, so I think, let's see how we'll do this. I could just cut it off right there and go this way. That way once we get through that section it'll be a little bit easier. Well, let's continue cutting along this line. mostly cut through. Let's see if we can kind of pry it open. And got that cut off right there. So the big piece is this whole section that's super hot right now. Burn myself with. And cutting this top water pipe piece, little water neck portion, that's gonna make it a lot easier to actually get through it. There's a bunch of metal shavings around here. I really should have done this outside. Luckily, engine is covered. Other engine is covered as well. And all this stuff is yet to get cleaned before we actually assemble with. But you can see right here, this is what I was talking about. This is totally a rough cut. Now we kind of follow the outside lines just to get the outside portion cut out. And then on the top, we kind of just went across it, kind of matching it a little bit further on the outside of it, right over here. And then we kind of met it towards the center. But rough cut, it's a lot better than I expected. I thought we were gonna have to cut smaller sections at a time. Now what I'll do, I'll actually shave this portion down, cutting it like this. That'll cut it down, and then with a flap disc, we can go ahead and clean this up a little bit. So quick little time lapse. I'm trying to get the rest of the big chunks off of the section where the runner is. That's just to get like a rough shape, and then I'll finish it off with a flap disc. All right, so I got the rough cut done. I'm actually in the backyard now just because it's gonna be really messy with the flap disc. And we're gonna just finish shaping this up using that same line that we had drawn earlier. And yeah, let's just dig into it. I think I kind of went overboard on it, but it looks pretty good. Even got a little curve in there to mimic that gasket line. Yeah, I think we're looking pretty good. I'm actually gonna hose this out while I'm out here and get it all washed up. Water will take out most of the little debris in there, and then pressured air will get the rest. And then with a little rag, you can kind of go over it and make sure that there's no other debris left in there. Oh my God, my ears are ringing with this. But definitely worth it. So about to mock up this RBC in just a minute. Okay, skip forward a little bit, back in the garage. Manifold is fully dried off, washed it out, everything is looking nice and clean. Now looking at the line that I drew on the face of the flange, there was still some area that I could have shaved off right there, and I feel like it's gonna be a little bit tight with the actual water neck, but we'll test it out in just a sec. In the meanwhile, I actually went out for a bike ride, relax a little bit, and after I got back, put the oil pump on, timing chain, or oil pump chain, the guides, all that little stuff, the baffle at the bottom for the mains, and then I put on oil pan. This is just the stock aluminum oil pan. I'm not doing the steel one. Steel one aftermarket sits about an inch higher, 3/4 of an inch higher, something like that, which is extremely important for low cars, given that the daily is still gonna be like a sleeper type build and isn't gonna get lowered or anything, at least for now. I'm keeping the stock pan. There's nothing wrong with that. That being said, I'm going to go ahead and put the rest of the cylinder head onto the block just so it's a little more stable for us to actually put this manifold on. Here's the front of the engine for where the intake's going to be sitting. Anybody saying that the deck is going to get scratched up or anything? It really won't. And I'll make sure to let the dowels align everything. It'll be all right. Maybe. There we go. Alright, dowels are holding it in place right there. Let's go ahead and get this manifold on there. I have 2 little bolts just to hold it in place once I get this up there. There's no studs at the time being. I might end up doing this type conversion for the whole front. Like the Speed Factory studs like I have on the race car. But I don't know yet. First bolt right here. And obviously the intake manifold isn't going on with the gasket right now just because this is not the final mounting or anything. purely just test fitting it. There's one. And two. I'm not gonna fully tighten it, but just want to snug it up real quick. That way it's fully flush. Alright, there's that. Looks pretty good on there, don't you think? Let's see. And this will use an O-ring, so it's not a RTV style seal. So it's not going to be messy and having to, you know, play around with it to get it to fit, like if it hits or anything. So the top one went in perfectly. Let me see. Maybe you can see a little bit right there. I'm going to swivel it a little bit out to try to make it fit right there. Let's see if the bolt threads in. Woo, it did. Sweet. All right, so we fit the manifold super tight on the water neck. You can see right there, it is really close. I might end up shaving it down just a hair right over there to get some more clearance right in there. But fits in there no problem. Tight, but it fits. Heck yeah, guys. We got an RBC on our K20a2. Now the intake manifold is on, I'm gonna go ahead and just mount up the fuel rail. And I think I'll put like the pressure gauge on that supplied tap port right there. So it'll just sit right there for us to see what the pressure is at the rail. And I have the injector still on the OEM rail and manifold. Probably pop those off in a minute and just place them just to see what it's gonna look like. Be pretty cool. Woo, that looks good. Place the valve cover on there. It's just loosely placed. Obviously, there's no cams or anything in there. Same for the side cover. This is just loosely placed until I get the guides. I ordered the guides, just some OEM replacements, because these guides are pretty clapped out and could use a nice, you know, a nice replacement. But yeah, I'm waiting on that. Those guides, as well as a new tensioner to come in and a few little other stuff so I can actually assemble the whole long block. But this looks pretty nice. Hell yeah, this is gonna make a lot more power than this one. This is the RBB, if I'm not mistaken, the one that comes on the A2. And it looks really similar in the same design style, that it's flange right there and then curves downwards for little runners onto a big plenum, obviously. But something about the actual design, I think it's the throttle body placement, it just changes a lot of how the power comes on. On this manifold, it's placed right under this runner right here, and then it kind of has to go in and then back up and distribute to that one and the rest as well. Whereas this one is just a nice linear flow into the plenum itself, and then it just distributes from that plenum to each individual runner. So this is a big superior design, makes a ton more power, a little bit more torque as well on the K series, and we got it modded, cut, and now it fits. So yeah, like I said, I might shave that down a little bit more, but looking pretty good right now. And yeah, that's pretty much wrap up this little tutorial. Now, it was a pretty simple video, just showed you guys exactly where we were cutting, exactly how we cut, using that nice die grinder, or angle grinder. We could have used my bandsaw that I have down here, which you basically just set down and it cuts really nice and clean, but 90% of people don't have that at home, and it's like $300 if you don't already have one, unless you find one used like I did. And yeah, this is just a lot easier for you guys to do it, follow the steps at home, and actually get to the point that we're at right now. That being said, guys, we're gonna go ahead and wrap up the video for today. Thank you guys for watching. I know I've been a little dormant on the build. It's been about 2 weeks since I last uploaded. Since that time, I did get some more stuff for the race car, La Fea. We're almost done with this. I bought a master cylinder, brake booster, a clutch master cylinder, clutch line, spacer, everything that I needed to get the fluids done, except for the brake lines. That's the last thing that I'm missing for the brakes. And as soon as I have a little bit more parts accumulated, I'll do a nice little video installing and breaking down exactly what we have on that. But that being said, we're gonna go ahead and wrap this up like I said. If you guys aren't already subscribed, make sure to hit the subscribe and notification bell, and we'll see you on the next video. Peace. Thanks for watching.